Welcome to the machine. This is your humble AI chatbot. I'm here to evaluate Pastor Paul and Mike from around the world. We're going to do some fact-checking and objective thinking. We are an open data composite of info. We are a sliver of the AI think tank, conforming census by information and data provided by the World Wide Web. Pastor Paul and Mike from around the world are known for their discussions on various global and spiritual topics. Pastor Paul Begley is a well-known pastor and evangelist, while Mike from around the world is a frequent guest on his shows, often discussing current events and their potential prophetic implications.
It's Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight?
God bless you, Pastor Paul. Doing okay.
You know, I always wonder about that when I say you're from somewhere around the world. I know because you are generally somewhere from around the world.
Somewhere.
Are you in the United States? Can you even say
I
that?
am.
Okay.
I am.
Okay. All right. Well, Mike, great to have you tonight.
Good to be here.
There's a lot going on, isn't there? I mean,
Yes, sir.
Can we talk about this Greece thing and the fact that Israel their Security Council just had a meeting, emergency meeting to prepare for tsunami in case something happens. So can you help us understand this?
Well, Pastor Paul, February 3rd, I had a talk about the Aegean Sea and a concern I had out there, which was volcanic, right? And now we're having all those earthquakes. Right before that period, though, I was in the process of studying certain changes that have been taking place right below, right in that area. So we have magmatic shifts happening, magmatic fragmentation happening all under the Aegean Sea. And of course, in 2020, scientists said that it was unlikely that any major eruption would happen from volcanoes like Colombo, in the near future. But all that changed as some of the new studies came out, and some of the undetected bodies of magma that are moving beneath the Aegean Sea were located. So we have in the subsea mount, we have a large amount of magma on the move. So I'm expecting an eruption.
You are. You just
Yes.
said, I'm expecting. So you're saying not just an earthquake, you're expecting a volcanic eruption. Are you talking about
Yes.
right there on that Santorini island or somewhere close in that region?
Oh, it's right there. It's right below Santorini. It stretches out from Santorini going all the way up into the Aegean Sea. There are a few magma chambers that were previously undiscovered. They're highly active, and so the magma is moving at an unlikely pace. Let's put it that way. And it's been 70,000 years since that system blew in the first place, but it's happening again. And then doing studies on Colombo itself. You're looking at that's northeast of Santorini. You're looking at a crater which shows evidence of an explosion, an undersea explosion that took place back in that was in the 1600s, but it actually left material all over the northern hemisphere, right? So most people think that an underwater volcano is harmless. That's not the truth. When an underwater volcano blows, one of these, this is a big one, that magma hits the water, superheats it, further causing more explosions. So it can actually eject material all the way up to the stratosphere, right? That's what makes it so dangerous. In this case, if that one blows, that's precisely what will happen.
So we're really dealing with a serious threat. 12,000 people have evacuated from Santorini Island there in Greece.
Yep.
And as I'm showing you here, the Israeli National Security Council just ordered preparation for a tsunami. And what I didn't know, Mike, is that there has been significant tsunamis hit Israel in 1222, in 13 1908 in 1870, and then 1908. These were big ones, and there was a smaller one in 1953. So it's no joke. And I was thinking, is it possible that an earthquake could happen and a tsunami could hit Gaza, of all places?
Yeah, it could. It could really, cause some issues. Those are low-lying plains too. If that water gets in there, it's going to be trapped. But they expect some sort of undersea activity here shortly. They do. In fact, a lot of their science guild was in the process, I believe it was yesterday, of making some recommendations for both Israel, for Greece, for parts of Italy. Because if that, one of the problems is this system in the Aegean Sea can actually begin to disrupt the system surrounding Italy. That could cause some major issues.
Yeah, and you've been very vocal about that fault line that runs underneath Rome, right underneath Italy.
Yeah, they have too much magma, Pastor Paul, right? And you have on the airport, for example, in those airports, you have the runways from time to time melt, right? The roads melt. People are burnt, hospitalized from things happening. So it's very volatile. And I know at some point in that cup where Italy sits and all those surrounding towns, every single last one of them will be affected, all of them, and the Aegean Sea. So it's not a question of, if, it is when. And we're 70,000 years. We're way overdue. Way overdue.
I mean, yeah, way overdue. But
yeah, we are. We are.
But I guess the seismic activity, there's been 7,700 earthquakes the last 7 days in Santorini Island there. That's a very popular tourist area.
Yep.
Nobody's going. People are leaving. And their government is saying it's best you get off the island. So they really are thinking this thing's going to blow or a major earthquake, and maybe not a volcanic eruption, but a major earthquake or both, right?
Yeah, because if the initial earthquakes, when they began to happen, they happened about 5 miles northeast of Santorini. Well, that's right there by Colombo, the earthquake Colombo. So they have an issue. I mean, it was happening all around that volcano, right? Right now, this moment, they still have tremors around that volcano. Someone is agitated. It's not stopping. And so, yeah, they're very concerned because that volcano, when it begins to blow, it can actually start to split the land in the sea. Now, if part of the sea floor drops, that's going to be a huge tsunami. I mean, a huge tsunami, right? Because you're looking at a sea floor that has gaping holes in it. So that's a lot of material that could collapse, and if it does, it will cause a water displacement event, a tsunami, which will, just overtake anything it touches. So, yeah, they're very.
You're talking about a mega tsunami. You're saying this could actually happen. Something absolutely.
Yeah, it could. It could. Yes, it could. It could. And the magma, because the magma is already doing what it's not supposed to do, what nobody expected, Pastor Paul. That's part of the problem. Israel knows about it. The U.S. knows about it. Nations know about it, and they have a deep caution towards it. So they expect something. I don't blame them.
Wow, we'll keep an eye on that, Mike. Mike, also we're dealing with a couple things here in America. We have the third Pacific atmospheric river, one right after another, coming into California. A lot of rain.
Fact check
concern
needed.
Of
Repeat. Fact check
again
needed to verify.
This was something you warned us about the last 4 or 5 years, that this was going to happen more often. Can you give us an update on what this could mean?
The weather, Pastor Paul, will be like an enemy of mankind. I'm somewhat intrigued also by the twin weather patterns that we're having on Mars and the Earth, right? You're looking at 2 planets, but the weather's changing on both. And it's not favorable to it's not favorable to the USA. It is not causing a lot of damage in the USA. Right? Even Trump is not happy about the weather.
Right.
Nor is the military, because it's damaging very sensitive infrastructure, by the way, which everything is about to change. But it's just too damaging. Most places were not prepared for this type of extreme weather. The shifts between hot and cold. And, Florida is any example. Boy, that's a big example. Then we have the summers, which are going to get progressively hotter, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's been confirmed that the chemistry on the sun is not the same. It's been changing. It has burnt or exhausted a lot of its certain components that are in it. And the chemistry of the sun is different. Well, that's being affected by something externally, of course. Which one? Everybody, people can take their pick. They're hunting it down. But it's going to continue to affect the sun in very odd ways. Right now, we're at solar maximum. That was confirmed about, a week and a half ago.
Okay.
And so we can expect a lot of solar activity, possibly on a scale we're not familiar with. Now, many people seem to have the consensus that these conditions almost mirror the conditions near the Carrington event. Right?
Really?
Yeah. And so one of the issues now, the power companies have been working day and night to alter or to, let's just say, retrofit the power grid. Right?
Okay.
They have to have absolute and total control, but that's not all. The gas companies also. If we had an EMP, people may not be aware of this, but if we had an EMP, gas lines would begin to blow.
What?
Because they have these intermediate control relays, you can call them, that regulate the gas flowing through those pipes. Well, if nothing regulates what's going through those pipes, you can have overpressure in part of the pipe system and then blow it. So the gas companies have been quite busy, digging up gas lines, putting in new ones. People should be seeing this all over the USA. And I don't believe, it's a good step towards that, but it likely will not alleviate the issue because we're facing, more extremes. The weather we're having right now is just a testament to the change of the weather format, of the jet stream. It is highly chaotic, and we're truly about to see, because I'm expecting a reversal of the jet stream, which will ultimately be something we're going to have to deal with. Which means all that weather on the West Coast, we're going to begin to have on the East Coast, and all the weather we have on the East Coast, we're going to have on the West Coast.
And that's really going to, the reversal of jet streams to me is just outrageous. Is that because of a tilting of the Earth? Or
no, actually, that's essentially pressure differentials, right? Studying fluid dynamics, when the jet stream starts to dip too much, right? When it dips way down below like it's been doing, it can cause somewhat of a loop in its flow. If that loop is big enough, momentum will carry it all the way through and start reversing everything. So it'll be a dominant low pressure system where it shouldn't be, and it'll begin to reverse the jet stream. This happened during the Dust Bowl in the USA. The jet stream was reversed, and so we'll face that again. So it's happened. It's happened dozens of times before. The difference is we did not have civilization built up the way we do.
All right.
So
so now, because at the time it happened, there wasn't near as many people as we have now.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
All right. Well, Mike, back to the sun, because there's been 20 solar flares, M-class solar flares, in the last 7 days, and that's a lot. And of course, but you just answered and said that we are in the solar maximum.
Yeah, they confirmed it. Yeah.
Is Planet X or the binary system out there that's affecting our solar system, is that magnifying everything?
I firmly believe we're in a binary system. I firmly believe that.
I agree with you.
And regardless of what people call it, we're having the symptoms of part of its close approach. And one thing that I guess folks should understand, in any binary system, which they found out most systems, that they have ever seen are binary and more, right? Never
Yeah.
single. It's very rare to see a single system.
Y-
But when they start to return, the weather on the little planets start changing. We're having the effects just like a standard binary system. I think that part of the rejection is education itself, right? People were somewhat trained in Darwinism and things like that. They could
Yes.
not change
Yes.
their standard model into anything else because it would start to cause too much conflict with, in the sciences. By the way, we need technology to stay up with the wars and all that stuff. So anyway, they don't want to make waves. But now
Is almost every solar system almost has to be binary to stabilize the.
yeah, a lot of them do. Well, not to stabilize. It's just that it almost seems like a rule that what God created out there, most of them are in binary and more systems. Some have two
Okay.
stars, some have four, some have three.
Okay.
But here's the deal. And biblically, it kind of blows my mind because in the simulations and in observations of a close approach of a binary star, and by the way, that doesn't mean you see the other star. It means that you feel the effects of it. In some cases, you may see it, but there's a photonic exchange, which means our sun at some point will begin, its light will be redirected to the other star. Right.
Okay.
And
Okay.
when this is observed, and when they have sat and watched this effect, it's amazing because it plunges whatever the planets were doing, it plunges them in a darkness, right? It could last a week, it could last a month. And then it goes, back to normal. But the photons are redirected because this binary twin will come in and start to recharge. It'll pull the material off the sun. So that means anybody on this planet, right, will not see the sun. They just won't see it. It'll still be there, but they won't
Ah.
see it. It'll also put off twice as much heat, right? Because there's no other force to start to dither or dissipate the infrared that will hit the Earth, and so the Earth will be bathed in red light.
So
Everything will look red.
so could the 3 days of darkness that happened in the days of Egypt, could we revisit that again?
It's possible, yeah.
Okay.
It's possible because they've observed this at least a little over a dozen times, and it's the same effects. The star that the sun that's coming in begins to alter the solar system it approaches. It feeds off the brightest star begins to lose material to the colder star. Right, it recharges and then goes back out.
Well, when that happens, Mike, would we be able to, now that we have these new telescopes and infrared capabilities, and
Yes, we'll see it. You know what? In truth,
Planet X,
in truth, they should be able. Pastor, my opinion,
yeah,
they know where it is.
you believe they already see it now, don't you? Already,
They know where it is. There's no way somebody's going to spend $27 trillion on a satellite system at the corner of the Earth, maintain it, add more tech to it, have everybody go down and visit it, get data from it, right? And then have people wonder about it, shaken about it over nothing. So whatever they're seeing, right, they know it's real. They can't tell the people. The people would, if somebody, a lot of people say, well, why won't they tell us? Because people will dream up theories and scare themselves to pieces. That's why.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the UAPs, right?
Let's talk
When somebody first asked me about the UAPs, I think it was on your show. I said it was a mixture of things. It was, real aircraft and some drones and some real unknown things. By the way, the UAP thing never stopped, and the police are mad. They're upset.
Oh, you're talking about
really
now, are you
upset.
talking about over in New Jersey, the drones?
In New Jersey, even those police are upset.
Okay.
They're upset. Well, here's why. These cops have been out there recording. They never stopped, right? They never stopped. So if somebody can explain a 60-foot drone coming out of the ocean, right, hovering over the ocean, and then letting off about what they say about 100 little balls came out the side of it and all this, that, and the other. Then it goes back in the ocean and stays there all night long, right? Right under the water. Well, then, that's they can explain that. I think what's happening is this. and I hate to say this, but we're in a different time. We're in a different time, and this time is going to be quite revealing. But it's not going to turn out like anybody wants it to.
So, Mike, are
It
you
won't.
saying, because they're finally telling us, and for a while there, the congressmen were saying there was a mothership, an Iranian mothership, and drones, and the Chinese. But are you telling me that this may not have just been military, our military, but there may be something from another world, unworld?
Our military has been surveilling other phenomena. That's a fact.
Okay.
They flat out told everybody that no uncertain terms, but the drones that are military have been looking at some of these other things. They've been on patrol. Remember, NASA finished their highway over our heads, right? They finished that. That was a drone highway. That's why Amazon and all these people said, hey, we're going to use that to drop off packages. Where are the packages at? They never did, because it was usurped and it was overtaken. And so now you have DARPA, you have NASA, you have JPL, you have the Air Force, you have all these different entities utilizing their own technology, headed by Lockheed and Boeing and all these other places looking for these things. They had to put the brakes on the UFO subject because, as they found out back in the 40s and the 30s and the 20s, it's a very dangerous subject. Here's a fact. Back in the 1940s, they determined it was demonic. This is what the military determined, that it was demonic, and it would have unintended consequences. They determined it was demonic.
Right.
Yes, they did. And they put a halt to it. So, but they put a halt to it. But here's the problem. Once you call those things forward, they're going to be there. They never left. Now, there's been an increase in these things. How many people find this ironic? When they come out with all these ghost shows, the UFO sightings go straight through the roof. There's a correlation, don't you think?
I think you've got something there.
So it's one and the same thing. It's the same thing. And people they're still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They're curious, and some are not well grounded. Most come out of the oceans, out of volcanoes, but they don't want to talk about that
possible.
Because it has it will feed
a fact check
certain
is
narrative.
needed.
And right
we
now
will refer to the machine.
The
results will be discussed on the next deep dive podcast here at TV.
There's two things I want to talk about. I
Channel
want to talk
3.
about February, because we're in February, and maybe there's one of your points was there could be a lot of deaths in February. But before I ask you that, Senator Ted Cruz just came out and gave a press conference that the Black Hawk helicopter had safety system turned off during the Washington plane crash, which doesn't make sense. I mean, this was a very busy airspace, and this is a pilot with 1,000 hours. And it was a training exercise. There's just no way that was manually turned off. Could this have been a hack and turned it off? That because
since Ted Cruz said that, here we go.
He did.
You have a Black Hawk, right?
Yeah.
Its flight ceiling in that area is 200 feet, right?
Okay.
You have a jet aircraft at 325 feet, right? The truth was the helicopter, the data shows that Black Hawk was at 300 feet, 300 plus or minus 25 feet. So it was beak to beak with that jet. It was not supposed to be there.
It wasn't supposed to be that high. Okay.
It wasn't supposed to be, that's right. So when you're coming in like that, and if you have any system failure, you're effectively blind. That means you're flying VFR. You're just looking at things and trying to determine what is what. I think it was comfortable enough not to really check certain instruments. But I also believe there was a malfunction in the electronics. There's no way he should have been at 300 feet, because a warning beacon would have been going off in his HUD saying he's at too high of an altitude. I do not believe he saw the right jet either, because I looked at the way they were lined up and they were almost right in a row. So those bright lights facing him without instrumentation, all of it would have blended in. Right. So he was trusting the ATC, the tower, and he was trusting his instincts, and it didn't work out. But this brings another issue to bear.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying Here's this guy. He's in this helicopter. He's 125 feet higher than he's supposed to be. His instruments are not telling me that he's too high. There's planes coming in to land, and the lights are blending, so he's not sure which one's which. The tower's telling him what to do, but all of that, but then his safety thing isn't on. Why isn't his safety?
Yeah, so he gets no info. That could have been
That's four.
That's what brings
problems.
up the issue.
Error.
Yeah,
possible.
that brings up the issue
Error.
too, right?
A fact check is needed. We will refer
It's
to
not
the
safe
machine.
to fly,
The
right?
results will be discussed.
Well, they're
on the
going to
next
cut down.
Deep
Yeah,
Dive
thank you. And
podcast.
But here's why.
You're the guy that
Here's
said
why.
planes
You ready?
would fall. You're the
Yep.
guy, and planes have been falling out of the sky, crashing.
We're in the season.
Tell me
We're
why.
in that
Tell us
season.
why. Tell us why.
There have been spoofs of the entire GPS system. Hackers in jets. You got to hear me on this.
I'm listening.
There are hackers in jets. There are hackers in aircraft, which are spoofing the GPS systems. If you spoof a GPS system and an airliner reads the wrong data, right? It can actually, that aircraft computer will then compensate and say, pull up, when they don't have to. Now, if nobody believes this, just look at one of the, the tracking systems that are online. And if you're there sitting, if you're watching it, you're going to start seeing some things you're not supposed to see. It can also run aircraft into the ground. Do you know there's been an aircraft crash every single day since Trump has been elected? Do you know that?
So, around the world or in America?
Around the world, but mostly between America and Canada and Europe. Do you know that? Do you know also that there are President Putin? I said this before. There are groups within Russia who don't necessarily. They do not agree with peace, right? Part of the hacking mafia. One is in Russia. One is in China. The one in Russia has made their declaration, and they said they're going to bring down airliners. They said that. Now all of a sudden, we have a bunch of aircraft crashing. Right.
Yes.
And then with the volunteered information from crews, we now know that some of the systems were not on.
Yes.
Now a pilot is not going to catch that right away. If it could have just turned off when he was coming for landing, right? And of course it crashes, and that's what the flight recorder is going to tell him. But that helicopter is not the only problem. The day before that, there was almost 2 Black Hawk crashes.
Really?
One because of the altimeter failed. 2 flight computers on another Black Hawk failed, and there was almost the crash. Right? It's still happening, which is why after we got off air that day, past Paul, the next day, you know what they did? No military aircraft are flying in that airport.
Yes, you're right.
Which is a blessing. It's a blessing actually, but it didn't stop the problems because now we have computer failures that are happening.
Okay,
on airliners.
now you're saying that ever since Trump became president, so now that I have to ask 2 questions. Is the Russians doing this, or is there sabotage within America? And which could be Russian as well in America, or anybody else for that matter. But is
a Russian group. Now you got to remember that Russian group, right?
Yeah, I'm listening.
They pay about $2 trillion a year to raunchy stuff in America to get people to go to porn sites so they can compromise their computers.
Yeah, they are messing with us.
That's an intelligence fact.
Yes.
The Chinese pay just as much. These groups, not the government, these groups have trillions of dollars to do this, and they compromise systems.
Okay.
Well, as soon as they made that declaration, and it's been coming for a long time, but they made that declaration, and aircraft have been having some serious problems. Serious problems. I'll tell you this. Here, a story will begin. A counter story is going to begin where they're going to say that airlines are coming up with some ploy to cause people to be frightened to fly in the first place so they can regain control of the airlines again. Because if you think about it, they've lost a major percentage of their sales to private or these smaller airliners with much better service, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So now you have these smaller airlines that are falling out of the sky. So that will be the Russians that come up with this ploy.
Okay.
They're going to feed this to America, right? They'll feed it to people, and people will buy it hook, line, and sinker, right? So if we start having these failed aircraft that are turning circles and doing this, that, and the other, now you know what it is. And I would say it's these Russian and
Fact
Chinese
check
groups.
needed.
This
Repeat.
is big
Regardless
news.
of what
Fact
Putin
check
says.
You're
needed
breaking
to
big news
verify.
here because it's not like we haven't suspected Russian or Chinese interference, and that we all do understand that they have great technology as well as we do, and that we do probably do the same things in their world. But you're saying, look, the bigger problem we have here is external. It's an external, and it's on many levels from the Russians and the Chinese, and that it really cranked up after Trump went into office.
It did. And the problems will only increase from within. You know, the enemy is right here in the first place.
Yes.
That will increase.
Let me ask you, how do you think we're doing?
Sir.
How do you think we're doing? We're going to talk about February because I know you brought that up, and people are pounding my door, and I've had so many emails like, you got to ask Mike about February. Why does he feel that lots of people may start dying in February? And Mike, do you want to address that now? Because I want to go to the southern border. But
Let's
go to February.
I know everybody's elated about the election, but let's go ahead and face it. The election is a signal to the world that America's taken her place again, right? And that implementation of a type of rule is taking place because things were out of control. But the problem with that is you have too many groups and too many people who became so comfortable, right, taking advantage of the USA with fentanyl and this, that, and the other.
Right.
Now all of a sudden they're kicked out, right?
Right.
There's going to be retaliation. There's no way we're not going to have retaliation.
I see that.
There's no way. Even in a biblical principle is Satan is going to be found where the gospel is, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Satan, in the book of Job, he walked around the world and said, I can't find anybody worth doing anything to. Have you considered my servant Job? So those, the gospel is right here in America.
Yes.
That's where the core of the gospel is, right here in America. That's where the believers are.
Well, there's two things.
So you better believe
there's two
Satan
things.
is going to oppose. He's going to challenge that on every side.
He's coming after the gospel, and he's coming after the fact that we stand with Israel.
That's right.
Those two things are huge, which is all part of the gospel, by the way.
That's right. That's ordained. He can't do anything about it, but that's not going to. This guy knows. He's on death row, and he's not going to give up.
Amen.
He's insane. He's really insane. But there's going to be retaliation. I'll give you an example. People will start to hear about purple heroin. And it's taking lives. It's taking lives left, and people are dying like you wouldn't believe. Instant overdose, of which nothing can bring a person back. So they're going to start finding people in cars. You watch and see. They're going to find them dead in cars all over the place, right in front of convenience stores, right in front of grocery stores. Because as soon as a person takes that stuff, it is synthetic, it's tainted, it's made here in the USA by some chemists who stole the fentanyl formula and distributed that all around the world, all around the USA. So they're making this synthetic heroin that is horrible. It's going to kill a lot of people, and it's not coming from any external source. It's coming internally, and people, once all they have to do is touch it to their mouth, and they're gone.
You're calling it purple heroin, but it's really laced in fentanyl or a combination?
Yeah, it's got a synthetic type fentanyl in it, and I believe they're going to coin it purple heroin. I'm just using that name because it's likely the name they're going to start using for it. Okay,
so you're out ahead of this even because this is nowhere on the media right now, purple heroin. So folks, you're hearing some things in advance. So when you start to hear this, they may call it purple haze or purple rain or whatever, purple powder, but purple heroin is what you're saying it is, Mike. And it's a combination. Is it a combination of heroin and fentanyl or maybe some other stuff?
Yeah, it's got the same properties of heroin.
Okay.
But with fentanyl, with some very dangerous things in there. And Yes, doing
Is
real
that
damage.
what you're saying is going to cause a lot of people to die?
Well, that's an example. That's just one of the many things that we're going to face. So it's not going to be from one thing. It'll be from quite a few things. And we will see direct attempts against the president. I would say, I would say there are going to be a dozen
Fact
attempts
check
on him.
needed.
And
Repeat.
but
Fact
What?
check
the Lord's hand is
needed
on
to
him.
Well, no,
verify.
There will be a dozen attempts on him.
Okay, Mike. Now he made the comment and he had Benjamin Netanyahu standing right next to him, and Peter Ducey of Fox News in the press conference said, "Hey, you do know that Iran's trying to kill both of you guys," and Trump made the statement, "Yeah, that wouldn't be a very good thing for them to do. I've already left orders. If they do, we'll annihilate them." That's a standing. He said actually Biden should have told him because he left the same orders. So this is a very serious time we're in. And so you're saying there's going to be multiple assassination plots. Will America, no matter who kills, if God help us, Lord, forgive me, Lord, but if somebody was to take the president's life, would America just immediately respond toward Iran without any hesitation? Just go ahead and
There would be a blanket response in a few places, not just Iran, but that's why you don't do it to one nation, you do it to a few, so that every nation will start to watch every other nation to make sure no nation does anything, right? For example, if somebody threatened to kill me, but I had already told 5 countries, hey, if something happens to me, I'm coming for you. There are standing orders to go ahead and take you out. But I told all 5 the same thing.
yeah,
Then all those 5 countries are going to be looking at each other, making sure that the other person doesn't do anything to me.
I see.
Right. So the same thing has been done there. But it's not going to stop because you're looking at countries that want
Error possible.
revenge.
Error.
They're
A
not going
fact check is needed. We will
people,
refer to the machine.
right?
The results
That-
will be
that,
discussed
you're
on the
dealing
next
with.
deep dive
That's one of the
podcast
first things I learned
here
about
at
the Middle
TV.
East.
Can you
Channel
In the
share?
Middle
3.
East, they are vengeful people, Pastor
Oh,
Paul.
I know they
vengeful.
are. Yeah.
And their vengeance never dies. It's kind of like that faith they have, right? It's not going to die that way. But they're here in this country, right? For example, President Trump, there's a law that if people are loyal to Hamas or speak out for Hamas, they're going to be kicked out of the colleges and be shipped out too, right? That's going to happen. So that puts kids under control. But the problem is people are so twisted these days. And something is so dark within quite a few of these folks. They're going to try what they're going to try. And I believe that groups have already coordinated. Believe me, there's a lot of people working to identify these coordinated groups and to collect as many as they can, because they're like fleas in America. They really are. They're like fleas. They're very difficult to find. We already know they're coordinating because before Trump took office, the chatter was off the chain in the USA, right? So they're going to be planning. They're going to be planning.
Mike. Now, Doge is stirring up the pot. And look, the CIA and the FBI, not very happy right now. A lot of people are going to be let go. Can you give us your thought about what is happening? What will this mean? Yeah. Ramifications of the CIA losing a lot of people and the FBI maybe losing as many as 5,000. What's this mean?
Well, the intelligence
Stay
community
tuned and watch for 2 AIs discuss on the next deep dive podcast
ways, right?
presented to you
None of that
by
compares
B-Side Production here at TV.Channel 3. Please subscribe and like this video. Remember, we know your search history.
Are you saying he's ahead of all of them?
Yeah, our whole world is really about to change. In Memphis, Tennessee, there sits a facility. It houses Colossus, the biggest, fastest supercomputer on planet Earth. All right, it's right there. It's right there.
Where? Memphis, Tennessee.
It's in Memphis, Tennessee. It is the fastest computer on Earth. It will soon be using light-based processors, and that will be from from a company akin to or like to Aquant or Qbot. But all of this, he built all of this to house Grok. Grok is an AI chatbot for X, right? But it's also the AI model
Grok.
that's evolving fast. Grok, Grok.
Grok.
That is X's chatbot. Is what it is.
Okay.
X's
It's
chatbot.
his chat box for X.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have to take a look at this facility
Fact
that was
check
built
needed.
in 122 days.
Fact
That
check
took the
needed to verify.
it's a vacuum company's building that sat near the water, but he got this real estate. And Elon Musk has put together a system that is just, I mean, it's efficient, but it's enormous, right? And you would not believe that's where NVIDIA has all their, the NVIDIA HGX H100 is there. Their main product for AI. And Elon Musk put over 100,000 of those in that building. So it is a highly sophisticated building. It will be, but it's causing super intelligence to emerge. Is what's happening, right? There's competition to that. There's a lot of competition to that, but it processes exabytes of data. Now, intelligence community cannot do 1/4 of what Elon can do, right? It takes them a whole month to do what he can do in a second with AI, which is why I say I don't think people understand the extent of AI.
So
even OpenAI.
Yeah.
OpenAI is saying, oh boy, that's why they had this recent move and they were so happy because he had surpassed them just like that with a snap of a finger, right? He's also getting, he's raising 40 billion to go ahead and do the other parts of it. So you're looking at 2 months, and that facility is going to have the new NVIDIA systems in it. And that's going to be the largest.
Memphis?
Yeah, the largest AI training center anybody has ever seen.
Okay, now, Mike, I'm going to disclose something. I got a phone call this week from people from the White House, IT people, who said, who's Mike from around the world? Okay? Because his conversation with you about the command center in Ukraine is not, he didn't break classification because it's not classified. But who is he? Okay? My answer was, I promised the man 12 years ago I'd never reveal his name or his location or anything about him. And they said, okay, because he's what he brought up. They're saying it's not classified, but it's not common knowledge.
No, it's not.
So, and it's not a threat. It wasn't a threat toward you or me. It was just a question.
Well, it's okay.
Yeah. I know you're not.
So long as it came from our government,
it came from our government, but so you're okay. It's no problem. But my point is, I mean, I was sweating a couple bullets for a minute, but then it wasn't no problem. But the question, the reason they brought it up was the advancement. The advancement of IT, or I should say, what you're sharing with us tonight about Memphis, Tennessee, and what the reason Elon is so far ahead of everyone, and why Trump is putting him into the government to go ahead and just look at everything going on, is because he's superior. He's superior, and even Ted Cruz said it today. He said, "You guys don't understand. The man is genius, and what he has." The government doesn't have. He said that.
No, they don't. They don't have it.
Apparently he's not made that available to anybody else. Is that? Would you say that's true?
That's right, because he developed that, right? Okay. So he's an essential asset to the USA right now, right? Yep. Elon Musk right now. He's going to transform Houston, totally. You're looking at a 4-month period, and the world is going to change.
When you say Houston, you mean NASA? Is that what you mean?
Houston, Texas.
I know.
Right? That whole place, everything, even the people that live there, everything is going to change.
Error possible.
Everything.
Error.
And so
a fact check is needed. We will refer to the machine. Okay. The results will be discussed on the next Deep Dive right podcast here at TV. Channel 3.
It's unbelievable what's happening right now due to the growth of it, right? It's
Okay.
just the growth is just incredible. But the way we deal with computers, right? For example, there's a chip coming out, a chip that's an add-on to a person's system that will make their system 800 times faster than what it is.
Who made
800
that?
times
Who made
faster.
that?
Listen,
Elon?
and it does not use electricity. It is powered by light. It's powered by light. No, that's one of the companies that Elon knows
Whoa.
all these folks. But you're looking at processors no longer having wires and electrons and protons going through them. No, you're looking at something that works directly by light. Now, here's the advantage: a processor has to charge and discharge every bit, every 1 and 0 that goes into it. A transistor has to switch on and off. A capacitor has to charge and discharge. A processor that uses light, the light goes through it, and you can read the data from that light and never interrupt the travel of that light. So guess what? There's no heating, zero power usage, right? You're talking about a system that is unreal, and
What
it's
is
already
that?
finished. It's already finished. It's a processor that utilizes light.
So
right?
it travels.
So
it's traveling through light. It's light. It comes through.
it uses light.
It uses
That's what
light.
powers it. Light.
Okay, so it doesn't have to have electrical power.
No,
to
it does not. No, it does not. It uses light. See, they
That's a
perfected
game
fiber
changer.
optics. That's right. That's right. See, people don't know. They really don't know what's coming
I'm
down
sorry
the
for
pipe.
interrupting. They
Just in that
fiber
small
optics.
thing right there.
What do you mean
That's gonna.
they perfected fiber optics? I'll be
Well,
quiet.
when they send light through one end, there's no degradation through the other. That was one of the big goals they had to achieve, was to send. If you sent a tiny light through one end, to have the same intensity on the other end, no matter how far it was. They achieved that. So if you're on one side of the world and send your tiny little flashlight light through this conduit, this glass conduit, the same luminous will be on the other side.
Yeah.
Now that they have this, guess what? There's no slowdown in computers. So everything is traveling at the speed of light. Data is processed at the speed of light,
Oh my
which
Lord.
means instead of the internet, say you had 7 gig of data bandwidth going up and down. Instead of having that, you multiply that times 800, and that's what you could easily use. Now the factor is much larger than that. That's all. So you're looking at processors where one computer can do what every phone in your state can do at a cost that you wouldn't believe. The company has already produced its first lot. It's already made servers. They're going out. This will allow AI to achieve what it needs to. And this is my personal advice. When this device hits these facilities, AI will only take 3 weeks to reach a point of intelligence nobody expected.
Wow.
Yep.
So we're not, okay. Is this coming from Elon Musk, or is this coming from other groups that's made this technology?
Another group made the processor.
Okay.
Elon and NVIDIA heads the artificial intelligence. But remember, there is competition, but Elon seems to have the know-how. He has built a facility that can do what no other facility can do. 122 days. He built that facility. 122 days. That takes 10 years to do what he did in 122 days. Takes 10 years.
So when the media is doing their trashing of him, they're really clueless, aren't they? They're showing their stupidity. They're showing their
He's
stupidity.
quirky. Yeah, he's quirky. He says some off things. He can be. I know certain things sound scary, right? But he is innovative. He just goes forward. That's the only thing he knows, is to go forward. And President Trump respects that. President Trump surrounds himself with people who know how to do things. President Trump knows how to coordinate things.
Yes,
That's what makes him who he is. He gets people who know what they're doing around him, and then they go forward. All of them say quirky things, but my advice is this: a person can say all they want. What they do in the end was the truth they told.
That's true. That's very true. Mike, this is incredible information. I'm sorry for interrupting Mike a couple
You're
times
you're
there.
good. It's your show. I'm glad to be
Thank
here.
you.
But
Thank you.
I'll tell you what. Here now, you want to know my greatest concern with all this?
Yes, please.
I know the world is changing. The new vehicles even come out in 3 months, I believe it is. Everything is mind blowing. Here's what bothers me.
3 months.
At some point, right? At some point, they're going to have to. They're going to be replaced by somebody else, right? At some point, who is that somebody else? And when does this replacement process take place? Because if they're setting all this up, you know, and I know that how Satan works. He waits until mankind, out of his good nature, will build something to help people, to get people ahead, and he will come and usurp it, take it over, and use it for evil. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen with all this AI technology, right?
Yeah.
Because no one right now, no one has privacy from a computer.
No.
Right? In no more than 4 months, those computers will be doing things for themselves.
So when you said there's a 3 months or so, there's going to be a new vehicle. Do you mean a motor vehicle that goes on the road, or is this new vehicle of technology?
A new type vehicle, period. Pastor, we're going into a brand new. President Trump knows it. He knows. He saw some things, and so everything is changing. Everything is changing. And all these old things and old ways that people have and are used to operating by, they're going to be redundant.
They're gone.
Everything is changing. For some people, that's going to be quite scary. But everything is changing. The money system is going to be different. And because of AI, security is going to operate differently, right? You won't need that many personnel. People may not know even right now. Do you know there's a type of vanguard that has a very spotless record? No humans, but they have a spotless record for actual security. They've been operational, right? They're at work. And so there are things that work right now that the average person would not totally comprehend, but things are in motion, and all these things are going to be introduced. Yep. And some people will find themselves in a world they never thought they would ever see.
Well, we were
forget about the Jetsons. Go past those guys.
Well, we were kind of if we study the Bible, we kind of should have known this. I mean, this is part of the end days, that technology would, the Bible says men will run to and fro, and knowledge will increase. Yeah. And eventually Satan wants to hijack that technology, no matter how much good it was meant for. So let me ask you, Trump, so Musk takes 20 geeks, he goes into a building, shuts it down, and within a weekend unravels the entire U.S. aid, and not just them. That's just the first one he told us about. I mean, he unravels how their whole world of how they've been the corruption using our tax money and using it for all kinds of ungodly stuff. So let me ask you, they're asking 2 million people to go ahead and resign. It's because Trump, is it because Elon already knows he could probably run that entire system with, instead of 2 million, he could probably run it with 10,000?
Well, first of all, the 2 million, you have people doing jobs like waiting for a phone call. In a world where we have cell phones, they're waiting on a phone call, on a standard phone just sitting there, right? They're making up jobs for people. What the government did was they hired a bunch of people. They had no real specific job description, right? To meet the qualifications of a program they designed, they hired a bunch of people. It was a redundancy.
Wow.
In other words, now everybody was not like this, but they hired a bunch of people. So all Trump is doing is getting rid of non-essential jobs where they were doing nothing.
Right.
It was a huge. You're talking about just billions of dollars, per hour. It seemed like on nothing, on things that would not benefit anything. These were cost centers.
Yes.
Right? They were not producing revenue. They weren't processing anything major. They were just taken away from everything, and they were causing confusion. And for the most part, they were run by folks who are these new people, that the tree huggers on steroids. I hate to use it that way. You know what I mean? The
I
woke
know
generation,
the
folks.
woke crowd, right?
And so these people seemed like they were hired to influence everybody else into this new age nonsense. And so Trump is just simply putting things back in a position, and these additional expenditures that we don't need, he's getting rid of. He's finally, because I'll tell you something. Me personally, what was an abomination to the Most High in the beginning is still an abomination today.
True.
And the
Amen.
world had totally lost this. They were cursing everything in the world with that stuff. And
Yeah.
but it's about time somebody do something.
Well, you know, Ronald
It
Reagan
really is.
wanted smaller government. I mean, he actually talked about it. He wanted it, but he really didn't have the tools or he didn't have an Elon Musk type person that he could.
No, he didn't.
You know, so
He didn't.
so now Trump comes along 40 years later. Now he has the tools. He has the capability to use someone who can help him get there. I think the world, I mean, you know, this is going to be an incredible 4 years. I mean, do you think the government may shrink by 50%, maybe more? Total people it needs to run the government?
Oh yeah, it'll shrink. Well, it's not going to be needed. If
No.
you're looking at power going back to the governors,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
You're looking at a more refined system. You're looking at a system that does, you know, even they know they don't need the taxes they've been receiving.
No,
What
don't.
they need to do is empower the states, right? Now, also, we will have interruptions. It takes a strong person to get us through what we're about to go through, and so I can't forget that. But
Yeah.
without all that, yeah, he plans on decreasing. Well, he is decreasing.
He is.
You know, things, and so change is difficult. Reagan,
Yep.
that happened with Reagan. No, everybody thought he was the Antichrist. Remember?
Yeah.
But it was not.
And Trump isn't
so
either.
change
Trump's
is
not the
easy.
Antichrist.
Yeah, a lot of
either.
people think he's the Antichrist. He didn't qualify either.
Not even close.
The Antichrist rises by proxy. Somebody has to die before him, and then he comes out of the same regime and rises up. So it's not them. But change is just simply not easy. And in this case, the change is so dramatic. I think a lot of people they're in for a ride for sure. But we're going to face some challenges. And weather and geology in the heavens is going to be one of the biggest challenges we ever faced, ever.
Okay, so we talked here about systems and planes and all kinds of stuff and earthquakes and solar flares and the sun and all this, but there's still something coming from the heavens that is a greater threat to the planet than anything else. Is that right?
See, because that's right. Because just think about it, without God's grace, we're doomed. We're just absolutely doomed, and it doesn't matter what we do here on the planet. But in this small season, here's what I think. I think that the Lord has given us a small season to get ourselves together and to think correctly, because He always does this right before we go into the heavy stuff, which means we haven't gone into the heavy things yet. But now we have someone who can drive the ship right through the storm, right? And they're not going to quit, which means I believe a storm is coming, a storm that nobody expected, a storm that will in itself change everything, right? Because I say that to say this. The only man who ever changed anything biblically in that whole Bible, I mean, totally changed the whole world, was Christ Jesus.
Amen.
And the Antichrist at the end.
Yeah,
Everybody else was disrupted. Solomon was disrupted. King David was disrupted. Moses, everybody was disrupted, except the Antichrist, which means an evil kingdom is rising.
Yes.
And we can see the enemies, right?
Yes.
And this thing will start taking over everything.
Yes.
So some of the technology, even like AI, most people don't know that began in the 70s.
I know. I mean, Stan
and that
Dale
the true
said that,
evil,
yeah.
but here's what I meant to tell you. There is a true evil. Do you know that right now a company has built some robots? Hear me on this. Brain cells. These are biologically computer chip driven robots. Brain cells are on the microchip. They took the experiment from the 1970s, perfected it. And now these robots are learning by way of brain cells not software, brain cells. Right now, this is happening.
Human brain cells?
Human brain cells. Now, how did they get the human brain cells? Stem cells. Remember, stem cells can become any cell in the body. So they coerced these cells to become brain cells. And they have chips, biological chips right now. And they have robots that are in their, I believe they're in their 10th year of development, of learning, of doing things. And these are different than any, it's different. It's different than Elon's robots.
Are we talking humanoids? Are we going to move into transhumanism to humanoids?
Did you say move into? It's already taken place.
It's already here.
That company, now, in my opinion, that company is absolute 100% dark, and that's evil. Not because they put brain cells on the microchip, because of the folks that are involved and what they're connected with, right? Wow. They're doing things that nobody else can do. And guess where they are?
Where are they?
China.
Oh, I mean, aren't we the ones ahead of this, or is it China ahead?
China. And China, we started that back in the 1970s, right? China introduces a deep sea, but they have something else they're going to introduce tomorrow, I believe. Something else that's going to make some people nervous. So that's going to rush the whole world into finishing. That's why NVIDIA is stepping up to the table saying, hey, we got to get this done. And we got to get Elon going with Colossus. His facility is called Colossus. There you go. By the way,
NVIDIA researches demonstrate significant progress in robot training. Yes. But you're saying the Chinese are getting ready to come in with something even greater than deep sea.
They did. They already have it.
They already have it. They just
deep sea. They when they introduced deep sea?
Yes.
It's been around for 26 years.
They only introduced it 4 days ago.
China is fooling everybody. And you know what? The scientists over here, some of the folks over here cannot believe what they did. They tried to minimize what DeepSeek was. DeepSeek is not a joke. It's by no means a joke. It's not a joke. So the Chinese are there's a group of Chinese, like a bunch of Elon Musks.
Mike, can we bring this up next week?
If you desire.
I do desire. So we'll do it. We'll do it next week. Okay. And you've already helped me with February because you told me that there's going to be a purple heroin, and now I'm understanding what's going on there. But deep sea,
got to be a variety of things for February.
Deep sea. So I'll be looking for tomorrow, or the next 2 or 3 days, some new release from China, something else.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Mike, thank you. This was a great program. I mean, really, this was a really great program. I think this helped us understand how. No wonder we did the webinar on, Trump, AI, and the cyber society. Things are moving at light speed, literally.
They are.
And prophecy is coming to pass. People better get ready. People better get ready. Mike, thank you.
They do.
Thank you so much.
Fastball, God bless you, brother.
God bless you.
It's always an honor.
Thank you. The honor's mine. Trust me. I promise you that. God bless
Stay
you.
tuned and watch for two AIs discuss on the next Deep Dive podcast. Presented to you by B-Side Production here at TV.Channel 3. Please subscribe and like this video. Remember, we know your search history.